Hello students, let us move towards our neighboring country, China. We have to learn about the progress in China. China till the late 18th century, it was rather a backward country because China believed in the old Confucian philosophies, and the Manchu dynasty that was ruling were not at all progressive. So China was quite backward till early 19th century. Now, when Japan had attacked China, Japan being a very small country compared to China, she attacked and defeated. Then the Chinese people realized that without the knowledge in Western science and technology and the Western ideologies, it was not possible for China to develop and make a strong protest against the Japanese or any other foreign aggression. And for that reason, the need for Western culture in China was felt. And for that reason, the Western education was introduced in China. And for that the colleges were set up where not only the Western ideas and philosophies were taught, but also the modern science, arithmetic, everything, language, literature, everything were taught. And the main role in spreading the Western education in China was taken up by the American and the English missionaries, and it was due to their efforts they had established many schools all over China for the spread of Western education. And for that reason, the common people, the mindset of the common people of China started to change. And the Confucian philosophy was gradually replaced by the Western modern thinking. And in this way, by the end of the 19th century, a class of intellectuals, the educated class had emerged. Just like in our country, the educated middle class had emerged due to the introduction of the Western education. In the same way, in China also, by the end of the 19th century, there was a class of Western educated intellectuals emerged, and they felt the need for the reforms and progress in the Chinese society. They also felt that the rule of the Manchu dynasty should come to an end for the progress of China. Now, in 1898, a reform movement had begun by the intellectuals, and they had rejected the traditional ideas, the traditional old-fashioned ideas, and supported the modern Western philosophies. And again in the 20th century, the intellectual movement had started in China because of the Western education. And it had aimed, the reform movement of 20th century aimed for build a foundation foundation for the reforms, the future reforms. And the result was that a strong demand had been raised for rejecting the traditional Confucian systems and adopting Western education ideologies, etc. The main leader of this movement was Kang Youwei, and this intellectual background of modernization in China ultimately will lead to the May 4th movement in the year 1919, when China, though being fighting for the allies, that means China had befriended with Britain and France and supported their fight or war against Germany and Italy in the First World War. So it was quite natural that China was expecting something in return when the Treaty of Versailles and the Paris Peace Conference was held. China was also expecting the territories and the gains, other gains in return. But the Chinese delegates were disappointed because the demands of China were rejected by the Western powers. So that was the immediate cause for the May 4th movement. There were other reasons behind the May 4th movement, which was the first of all, the Sun Yat-sen. In China, the Manchu dynasty was overthrown, and the socialist government was set up by Sun Yat-sen, Dr. Sun Yat-sen. But because of the warlords were the nobility in China, and they were constantly fighting against the socialist government, and there was a civil war kind of situation created in China. So Dr. Sun Yat-sen had stepped down from the presidentship of the socialist government in China, and in his place Yuan Shikai had stepped up as the new president. Yuan Shikai was very brute. He was a cruel man, and he had taken atrocious measures to establish stability in China. And in doing so, he had tried to eliminate the Kuomintang, the Chinese communist section, and he had entered into many secret treaties with the Western powers, which proved to be against the progress of China, the country. So the rule of Yuan Shikai was disliked by the Chinese people. So that was the reason that they rose into revolt against the rule of Yuan Shikai. Moreover, the defeat of China in the hands of Japan, and Japan had raised 21 demands from China in order to settle down the peace between the two countries. So these 21 demands from Japan proved to be very much insulting, and the Chinese people became very angry against Yuan Shikai, who had agreed to meet all 21 demands by Japan. So all these, apart from these, the foreigners, the foreign powers, they were trying to capture the Chinese markets. So these led for the outburst of the Chinese people. Basically, the leadership of the movement in the May 4th movement was taken up by Chen Tu-Xiu, who was a professor in the Peking University, and he had led hundreds of students of Peking University to protest against the rule of Yuan Shikai and his socialist government. And the students who were the main protagonists of this movement, they made this movement so popular that within a very short period of time, entire Chinese population started to support the students. And the government of Yuan Shikai had taken atrocious measures. Many students were arrested, tortured, killed. By that time, the Chinese working class, which was the main pillar of the Chinese society, came forward and strongly supported this student movement. So next we will learn about the importance of the May 4th movement.